Hey everyone, Rachel Weaver here. I am part of the faculty at Regis University's Mile High MFA program. I'm making a series of videos in which I am exploring lots of different options to lots of different ways to make a living as a writer with a background in writing. So today, Mario Acevedo is with us to talk to us about ghostwriting. Thanks for being here, Mario.
Thank you very much, Rachel. It's a pleasure.
So tell us a bit about your work as a ghostwriter.
Okay, I guess the first question, what is a ghostwriter? And a ghostwriter is a writer who writes content for someone else. And usually when we think of ghostwriters, it's somebody who's writes a book for someone else, and they have title credit, they have the copyright on that. So most of those assignments are done as what we call work for hire. In other words, you write the work for them, and then you have no ownership when it's done, unless you've had some prior agreement. So so that's what a ghostwriter is. I mean, when I was a kid, I heard that word ghostwriter, and I'm like, what the heck is that? Who can ever do that? And here I am, writing as a ghostwriter. Most of the work you do is what we if you're a ghostwriter, is writing books. All right. Now, you know, a lot of politicians, for example, could have somebody write their speeches and those things. So that, you know, you would technically be a ghostwriter, but they would probably just call you a speechwriter. So a ghostwriter is someone who would write a book. A lot of books by politicians and celebrities were ghostwritten. And the way you would find out is if you look in the acknowledgments, and they won't say this person is the ghostwriter. They will say this person, I collaborated with this individual or whatever, and then that's how you go. And that's probably the limit to the recognition that you're going to get as a ghostwriter. It is a process. You're writing a book, so you're going to ask, well, why would anybody want to hire a ghostwriter? Well, the reason is that writing a book is, and I think as many of your students will know in the MFA program, is a big project, okay? It is a marathon to write a book. And, you know, you're talking, generally speaking, the shortest books I worked on are about 200 pages, which is about, I don't know, 40,000 words on up. And generally, I tend, if my client wants something over, let's say 90,000 words, I come back and I say, that's 2 books that you have that you're writing. So that's what you do, is that and the amount of work, okay, so you're going to say they have this book, now what? Sometimes it's just a very vague idea that they have, and you have to sit down and that. So a big part of being a ghostwriter is being able to interview your client, interview people, and to understand what they're trying to do, because it's their story that you're doing. It is a very labor-intensive process. It is it occupies a lot of space in your mind, okay, to write a book. And particularly if you write more than one book. Like, for example, right now I have 5 people that I am working on, that I'm going from project to project. You know what? I am a kind of writer. I can only write maybe 2 or 3 hours on a particular project, and then my brain is done. So I have to take a break, and then in the afternoon I'd come and work on somebody else's project, and then take a break, and then in the late afternoon work on somebody else's project. And now what also helps is the projects are in different phases of development. You know, some it's very early in the process, and some is late in the process. And then the one later in the afternoon, for example, would be mainly editing, which is a little less intensive than just creating the work as it goes. So that's what you do as a ghostwriter. How I got the work as a ghostwriter, there's an individual by the name of Mark Graham. He had a company called Mark Graham Communications. You can look it up in Denver. He has since sold that, and there's an individual called Christopher Short, owns the company now, but it still goes under Mark Graham. And if you go to that web page, you will see all the different titles. And I am one of several writers who work for Mark Graham Communications. We're all independent contractors. Okay, we're not employees, we're independent contractors. And, you know, part of the process, you know, he came to me, Mark Graham came to me and said, hey, I have an assignment. Somebody wants a screenplay written. He started the screenplay and he can't finish it. So would you like to help? So I did help him with that, and the process turned out pretty good. And then somebody came to him with a novel. And most people who approach a ghostwriter it's usually nonfiction work. You have a lot of businessmen, a lot of how-to books. You have a lot of politicians want to write something. So that's the majority of ghostwriting. But there are people who want a novel written. And it's just bugging them. And I had one individual who had dreamed about this story for years. And then he tried to write it and he just couldn't write it. So he comes and he said to Mark Graham and said, I need somebody to help me write the novel. And it came to me and I wrote that novel, and he said, I really like this. I want another one. And that turned into 4 novels. So to me, I find it very satisfying, very rewarding. I have repeat clients, people who are like my work so much, they come back and say, hey, I want him to write another book for me. And I think I got a good handle on what the process entails and how to project and how much time it takes, and what kind of issues we might have in the future, story issues especially. So it's a profession, it's an avocation that I'm very proud to be a part of. I'm gonna have to caution you though, it's probably not for everybody, because like I said, it takes a lot of space in your head. And I have some friends who are ghostwriters, and they actually had to step back because they wanted to work on their own projects. And it takes a lot of bandwidth, to accomplish that. And the key to success to being a good ghostwriter is to embrace the story as your own. Is to say, look, I would be proud to have this particular book with my name on the cover. And sometimes I've had some clients come back and say, I want your name to be on the cover with mine. And I say, okay, good. With that, they still have the copyright, but I can say that I'm a co-writer on this particular book on that.
And what advice would you give somebody as far as getting started? Like, how do you get started?
Well, okay, 2 things. I would have some good examples of your work. All right. I mean, because you're going to have to produce work at a professional level. Okay. So you have to be a very competent and confident writer. All right. So that's one. We've had clients come to us, and I make fun of them. I mean, not the clients, but they've gone to other ghostwriters, which I call Doug's Discount Ghostwriting Services. And the people that I'm getting hung their shingle out and say, hey, I'm a ghostwriter. And in fact, I would take a look at that work, because the clients would say, look, this is what they produced for me. And I look at it and I could see that it was really not up to the kind of standard that you would want in a professional product. So you got to be good at that. And we've also had people who have left us and said, well, we don't like, and then they go somewhere else. 6 months later, they come back and say, well, yeah, actually, you guys are pretty good compared to what's out there. And even though we're a local outfit here in Denver, we compete in terms of clients and in terms of the kind of product we produce. Probably one of the places that has a lot of ghostwriting, I guess, companies or firms would be around the Washington, D.C. area, because they serve a lot of the individuals over there. And it seems like, there's people that are mad at the government. There's politicians that want to put their word out. There's a lot of, like, it's almost like a cliche. People get mad as FBI agents and CIA agents, and, they want to write a book in that regard. So there's a lot of opportunities there. So what I would do is to have a body of work that you can have. All right.
Like creative work, you mean?
Pardon?
Like your creative work, you mean?
Yeah, your own creative work that you're going to have to show to somebody, because Mark Graham was familiar. He had read my novels, and he said, hey, this is a guy writing about vampires and all kinds of crazy stuff. And that's what that manuscript, that first screenplay was about. It was about lumberjacks versus zombies. So it was a lot of fun to write. So there's a lot of opportunities out there, but you have to be a good writer. What I would do probably in the meantime is to try to find work as an editor. Probably there's a lot of places out there that need content, like websites and things like that, and trying to get on board in that. So you kind of get used to writing work for someone else, okay? To their time schedule, to their particular creative demands, and kind of get used to being in that kind of a professional relationship. And then you can also have this body of work that you can point to and say, this is what I can do. Don't try to be a kind of writer who can do everything, because you can't. Okay. Just kind of hone in at first. I'm surprised how many people want to write novels, and they want to write, fantasy novels. Okay. So why would they hire ghostwriters? Because they have this story inside of them and they want to get it out. And there's really basic two ways to do that. Either you can learn how to do it yourself, which can take years, and a lot of them don't want to do that. And other ones will say, I'll just hire somebody to write the story for me. And that's where I come in. So that's what I would do. And a lot of my friends, I know some local writers who are ghost writers, but they only do like one assignment. All right. And it's sort of just like extra money that they do. And that's a good way to get into it. I'm kind of like Mark Graham's go-to guy about, hey, we need this. And so I do write novels, and I have written how-to books, business books, and you get to meet some great people in this regard, some pretty accomplished people. So even though you are the writer, you're providing this particular service, they are very accomplished. I've had one guy was a trauma surgeon. Another guy was a couple of other guys are very successful business people. So it's been a pleasure to work with them in getting their book together, or books actually.
And what advice would you have for somebody who thinks that this sounds awesome and they are really, want to pursue it? What advice would you have for somebody just getting started?
Well, like I said, is to consider yourself a strong writer, okay, and to understand not just the craft of writing, but the art of storytelling. Okay, that's a very important part. And even if you're writing nonfiction, being able to project a story that kind of pulls at the emotions of the reader. So understand that. And like I said, the other thing is to embrace the work as your own. Okay, saying I'm writing this. This is something I want to be proud of. It gets on the shelf, and be willing to go the extra for your client. Because your work it's amazing. You sit down, you start to write, and the muse shows up, and you crank out the work. And it's a process, just like any other book. And you learn how to tell the client, this is the first draft. The book really doesn't come together until the second draft. And then after that, there's still like another, more finessing that you do. So it is really no different than writing a book for yourself.
Well, thanks, Mario. I appreciate you spending time with us this morning.
Well, thank you very much. We'll see you guys out there.